Hey, what's up, folks? Damien here. I'm gonna do a reaction video to this guy, Johnny Nerd Out, who is definitely a mid-drive guy, and he seems like a nice guy, by the way. I should totally start off by just saying that this is all for entertainment and also to debunk some myths, which I think is funny because his title to his video is Hub versus Mid-Drive Motors, Why Hub Motors Suck and Debunking Common Myths. And in my opinion, he makes a whole bunch of ridiculous claims in this video. And so I want to debunk some of those. If you're new to this channel, you'll know that I have gone, 35,000 miles by e-bike now. I've been on 8 tours. I commute daily. My e-bike was stolen here a few weeks ago, a month ago, and I'm in the process of building a new one. So, yeah, and a lot of people have asked, why don't you go mid-drive? And it's because I've been a hub motor person for this whole time, and I think the benefits of a hub motor versus a mid-drive, for my purposes, which is commuting and touring, it's so much better to have a hub motor for those purposes, in my opinion. Now, of course, most companies have gone the way of mid-drive. There's still a lot of hub motors out there, of course. I buy most of my parts from Grin Technologies, and Justin, who's the founder of Grin, he actually is now powering a sailboat with an e-bike motor. Basically the same setup I had on my bike. I mean, it's 52 volts. It's a hub motor. I mean, it's like powering a big ass sailboat. So he's on a different iteration now. I think it's like version 4 maybe. But yeah, they sell that motor kit for boats on the website now. So there's something to be said about hub motors for sure. And the purpose of this video, I did record this a while back, and then I scrapped it. So I think it's better to post it now, because I'm building a new bike. And I could have easily gone mid-drive, starting from scratch, and I'm choosing to go hub motor again because it's just better, in my opinion, for my purposes. I'm gonna try to stay calm. There's so many claims in this video that really kind of like irk me. Like I said, I think I'm sure this guy is awesome and a great person and all that, and I'm sure he knows what he's talking about, at least to an extent. But I feel it's necessary to make some counterpoints because a lot of people that find my videos, find his videos, they're people that do not know about e-bikes at all, and so therefore they're going to take advice from people like myself and people like Johnny. And I think it's really important to put out correct information, and I don't believe that he's putting out correct information in this video. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna react to his video, and even though I watched it already, I'm like gonna try to stay calm. Thanks everyone that watched my live stream yesterday. Yeah, I'm excited to build my new bike, but let's get into this, and you'll see why. You'll see why I'm taking taking offense as a hub motor guy to his video. So here we go. Yeah.
The reasons are seemingly endless why I would choose a mid-drive over a hub drive every single time, except for one very specific instance. Dun, dun, dun. I get to ask this question all the time. It's like, hey, will you install a hub drive on my bike? And I always ask, like, sure, but why do you want a hub drive? And they're usually like, I don't know, what's the difference? And I'm gonna break down the differences now. And hopefully I'm gonna debunk a lot of myths or a lot of like misconceptions that people have about mid-drives and hub drives.
He doesn't really debunk anything. If anything, he adds more myth to the whole. Because in my opinion, like all e-bikes are awesome, right? I got my mom mid-drive. I think it's like the PC versus Mac argument, to be honest. You know, they're both fine. They both have their purpose. I think him taking the position of hub motors suck and they're not worth buying is wrong, and it's I don't think that should be put out there to the internet to potential buyers for e-bikes, because you know the the most popular e-bike ever sold is made by Rad Power in Seattle, and it's the Rad Rover, and it's a hub drive. So there you go. Fuck you. Just kidding.
So I want to go down the list and compare pretty much side by side the pros and cons of each one. And I'm going to be using a Bafang 750 watt hub motor, and I'm going to be using a 750 watt Bafang mid-drive for my examples on this one. It's
kind of funny that he's using the same brand. So Bafang makes mid-drives like the BBS02 and the BBS HD are the most common, most popular. And then they also make hub drives. And so he's comparing sort of apples to oranges, in my opinion, even though it's the same brand. They are both 750 watts, and I get that. But I think most people that get into DIY wouldn't put a Bafang motor on their bike in the first place. They would put, you know, Crystalite or Nine Continent, or, I mean, even just going on eBay, you can get a way faster and better motor, in my opinion, if you're trying to go like a simple e-bike. So it's interesting that he's using the same brand, but trying to say one's garbage and one's not.
close to an apples to apples comparison as you could possibly get. Same manufacturer, same wattage. We'll go down the list of what makes each one different. All right, if you're new to this channel, I'm Johnny Nerd Out. I've been a professional e-bike mechanic, converter, builder since 2017.
2017. I want to put that into perspective as well. So that's 4 years ago, right? I've been e-bike commuting for 8 years on my hub drive motor kit, and so yeah, I have 8 years experience. This guy has 4. Just BT dubs.
I've worked for a few different e-bike manufacturers and different custom shops before I went off on my own and started doing it on my own. So I have a decent amount of experience, probably more than the average bear. If that gives me some credibility, I'll take it. All right, so let's...
Yeah, some credibility. Yeah, and if you're a mid-drive person, definitely go check out his channel. I'm not trying to throw shade. I mean, I'm sure he knows what he's talking about, at least with mid-drives, but he doesn't know shit when it comes to hub motors, to be honest.
Start, shall we? All right, so first I want to start with performance. This is, for me, one of the biggest ones. Hub motors they can't keep up with a mid-drive. First of all, hub motors are rated at 80 Newton meters of torque, whereas a mid-drive is rated at, depending on where you get your spec sheet from, 120 to 160 Newton meters of torque.
Yeah, that's correct. 80 Newton meters of torque is actually totally fine for a hub motor. I mean, there's actually no reason to have any more torque than that. And one of the things that he is going to get into is like the performance test. He's talking about like hill climbing and yada yada. The one thing that he doesn't really go into depth about is the fact that a mid-drive is reliant upon the drivetrain, right? So you have to be in a particular gear, or you have to use gears, right? If your chain breaks, you're dead in the water. But that's not a big deal. I mean, they make e-bike chains now. I mean, drivetrains for bikes were never meant to handle, 800 watts continuously or 750 watts continuously. So they've had to make some changes. But the point is that in his performance test, which you'll see at the end, is he's comparing apples to oranges, because with a hub motor, you don't need the drivetrain. You can use the drivetrain, and I do on all of my tours. That's the whole way I get from A to B, is pedaling the entire time and, changing gears to help the motor. With a mid-drive, you have to be in gear. So when he's doing his performance test and he's going up a hill, he's in the lowest gear, or a low gear, right? So it really isn't. It really isn't like an apples to apples comparison. It's an apples to oranges comparison, in my opinion.
Double. That's twice as many Newton meters of torque. If you've ever driven in a car that had 150 foot-pounds of torque and then driven in a car that had 300 foot-pounds of torque, you would appreciate that difference. It's crazy. It's a big difference in performance and what you're getting. Even though it's the same rated wattage, it's still drawing the same amount from your battery. It's just using it so much different. It's like...
Yeah, because you're using the drivetrain. You have to use the drivetrain. So... you pop your hub motor bike into the lowest gear and you start pedaling with the motor. Yeah, you're going to have a couple hundred Newton meters of torque. It's the same fucking deal.
Having that kind of different torque in your car, but getting the same gas mileage. But really what it comes down to is how that power is applied. Mid-drive comes from the crank, and it uses your gears in the back like a transmission. I'm going to use this car analogy as much as...
Yeah, use that car analogy, bro. There's no difference. I mean, you use your drivetrain on a hub motor just like you would on a mid-drive. You just don't have to, but you do, because that's how you ride. That's how you ride a bike. Pretty simple stuff.
As I can here. It uses those gears in the back, so essentially you have an 8-speed transmission in the back, whereas with a hub motor, you have 1-speed transmission. So it's like being stuck in third gear in your car. So if you...
No, it's not. You don't make any sense at all. Sorry. I'm trying to stay calm. I'm gonna stay calm. But no. No.
Only had one choice but to be in third gear in your car for all purposes. Highway driving, climbing hills, starting from a red light. That's what it's like having a hub motor. Acceleration is gonna be really slow. You're not gonna really be able to climb hills very well.
I beat cars off the line all day, every day, and I can climb any hill that's ever been put in front of me. It's so ridiculous to try to say that a hub motor is somehow not capable of these things.
It's going to be all right around mid-range, mid-gear. It's going to be fine, and towards the higher end, it'll be okay. But it's just not nearly as effective way to use a motor versus using gears to
Yeah, bro, exactly. That's why you downshift and you pedal to help the motor out, just like you would have to with a mid-drive.
Really dial in, use that power where you want it. So a mid-drive is going to outperform a hub motor across all speed levels. Low end, climbing hills from a start, all the way through to top end. It's using a...
Yes, because you're in gear.
More efficient gear ratio. So it's going to have a higher end top speed and a better lower end. And here, I'll insert a clip here.
Higher top speed doesn't make any sense at all. That comes down to gear ratio. So there's no actual reason why a hub motor would have a less top speed than a mid-drive based on gears. A hub drive actually does have a top speed. It has a maximum rotation per volt, right? RPM per volt. So no matter what you do, you can't go faster than a hub motor will allow you to, unless you pedal, I guess. Pedal beyond that. The only way to increase the top speed is to change the amps of your controller, or increase the battery voltage. Those are the two ways to make a hub motor go faster, because it comes down to RPM per volt. So standard hub motors are like 7 to 8 RPM per volt.
Of same bike that I converted from a hub motor to a mid-drive using the same battery and everything, just switched out the motor. And you can see the difference between hill climbing and top speed.
So this is my irk. This is why I'm mad at this person, even though I'm sure he's a nice guy. This is not an apples to apples comparison, right? So the mid-drive is using the gears. It has to. It can't function without the gears, right? So he can be in whatever gear he wants, and he's going up a hill. And of course, yeah, it's going to go up a hill easier, right? If you were a normal human being and you were riding a hub motor bike, you would go up a hill and you'd be pedaling in probably the same gear that he is in on the mid-drive. Just doesn't make any sense. Also, there's absolutely no way to compare top speed between hub and mid. It just doesn't make any sense. You have to use the drivetrain for mid-drive. I'm going to beat a dead horse, but you have to use the drivetrain. So if he was in any less of a gear, he would not have that same top speed, period. So it is what it is.
So you can see how just using the gear ratio makes a world of difference. And also, just to put a finer point on that, is think about what that does. If you only had third gear on your car, think about what that's doing to your motor. Like it's a lot of strain on your motor, just like on a hub.
There's actually absolutely no strain on a hub motor. The only moving parts are bearings. And yes, you can overheat a hub motor because you're trying to push too hard and not go fast enough to release that energy. But it's just there's no strain. Do you know what I mean? It's energy loss through heat. That's all it is. There's no strain. You're not like pushing a motor hard. You can literally go up a 20% grade hill for like 15 minutes and it's not going to overheat your motor. Like you can just do that. I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about, to be honest.
Hub motor. You want to find that ideal range to keep your motor in the best health that it can. When I used to work as a e-bike mechanic at a shop that we only sold hub motors, we would get so many bikes in with burnt up hub motors, and we would replace them. We'd get bikes sent back into us from our dealers of burnt up hub motors, because if you ride a bike hard, or if you don't really know what you're doing and you accidentally ride it hard, you're gonna burn up your motor.
Yeah, of course. Duh. Of course, if you're not smart and you're not paying attention and you're not trying to, you're not like monitoring temperatures and you're trying to like bomb up a hill at like 20 miles an hour, in 100-degree weather, yeah, you're going to burn up your motor just like you would with a mid-drive. Sorry. Like you would. That's just fact.
Motors don't like to get a lot of amps or a lot of power sent to it without spinning real fast. And with hub motors, you have no choice but to send a lot of it. You're putting a lot of strain on it. Whereas with a mid-drive, obviously, you could put it in your lowest gear and that motor's spinning, and that's what it likes.
Yep, exactly. And you can just like, downshift with your gears on a regular bike with a hub motor and also take strain off the motor.
I would easily say I've seen a 10-to-1 ratio of burnt up hub motors to mid-drive motors. All right, the next myth I want to talk about.
It's way harder to overheat a mid-drive because you're using the drivetrain. You have to. It wouldn't even go anywhere. Like if you were to like pop a mid-drive into like top gear, right, and start off that way, it would be like super dupe sluggish, right? And you wouldn't do that, so because you're a normal human being with a brain, so you would downshift to compensate for like a hill or like the work you're trying to do, just like you would with a hub motor and drivetrain.
Is reliability. This is a common myth that I hear a lot about, especially from you hub drive fanboys, and you know who you are.
Hey, that's me.
Nonsense. It's the biggest misconception I think there is reliability, that hub drives are more reliable than mid drives, because if you snap your chain, you're not getting home, but if I break my chain in my hub drive, I'm still getting home, which is true, but that's why I just carry an extra $15 chain in my pannier bag.
Cool. Yeah, carry an extra chain, that's fine, but if you didn't have a chain, what are you going to do, right? The problem I have with reliability is it's not just about a chain. A mid-drive has a clutch. That's not a part you can just find anywhere. Like you would have to specially order that, and then you would have to have the mechanical know-how to change out that clutch. With a hub motor, there is literally no moving parts besides bearings, right? So and they're industrial bearings. I've replaced bearings on my old motor. You can find them at any industrial machine shop, and they're, priced accordingly, like 10 to 20 bucks or whatever, right? That's literally the only thing that will cause, or have wear and tear, besides, perhaps like overheating your wires or whatever, right?
Like at all times, it takes up no space. And in the off chance that I happen to break my chain, which I've only broken a chain probably twice in the last 3,000 miles of...
Twice in 3,000 miles? Oh my God. I can't even imagine. Oh my God. Like I've gone 30, I went like 20,000 miles on one motor without having any service necessary whatsoever.
Riding that I've done, and that was more my fault because it was me climbing hills, giving it full throttle, which I have a BBS HD motor, so it was putting over 1,500 watts of power on that chain and climbing a really steep hill. That was more my fault. I've only broken 2 chains, and that's only 15.
Yeah, and like I said, to be fair, the bike industry, like now they make chains for e-bikes to be able to handle a little bit like stronger wattage output and things, so it's fine. But yeah, bikes were not meant to have 1,500 watts being thrown at them continuously. Just that wasn't how they were designed.
$15 part that I could fix on the side of the road in under 5 minutes. But what hub motor people don't like to talk about is their fatal flaw. And you know what I'm talking about. Let's think about how power gets from the motor to the tires. The only thing that's holding it together are spokes. These little...
Oh my God, this is, I'm gonna definitely try to maintain my composure. I feel like this is actually the entire reason why I ended up wanting to make this video. It is ridiculous what he's talking about here. So here we go, folks. Let's watch this entertainment.
Tiny spindles of steel or aluminum, whatever one you're using. Those things work themselves loose. Hub motors work spokes loose. I don't know how many times, if I had a penny for every time that I've had to replace a spoke on a hub motor, I'd have at least $10.
I replaced one spoke 8 years ago from a cheap eBay kit, right? So it was like trash wheel, very, very inexpensive motor. And I replaced that one spoke. And since then, I've had all of my wheels built by a professional wheel builder. And not only do I never have to adjust my spokes, I've never ever broken a spoke. Ever. And that's been, what, 25,000 miles later?
So many people bring in a hub motor that is just shredded, that they had to like walk in, left them stranded. You can't repair that on the side of the road unless you
So
happen
mad.
to be packing in
Sorry.
extra spokes, extra
So
nipples, and a
dumb.
wheel steering
That was like a
stand,
front
which
wheel. It didn't even have a
nobody
hub
does.
motor in
And
it.
it's
It's like,
much
what are you
easier
talking about?
to get a chain fixed. Anybody's going to be able to replace that. How expensive it is to get a rear wheel built with a hub in it. A lot of bike shops won't even touch it. They're like, oh, I don't know what this is. They don't feel comfortable doing it, or their business license doesn't cover that. So yeah, and it's very time consuming and expensive to replace spokes, get a whole hub motor wheel rebuilt and true.
He's talking about this like it's just so commonplace. And I know a lot of people that have e-bikes. I know a lot of people, I've helped a lot of people build e-bikes, and I've built a lot of people's bikes. And there's a lot of people on this channel that have hub motor builds. I think most of the people that, subscribe to my channel are hub motor peeps. And I've never ever heard of anything like this from anyone, and especially not myself. So I'm making this video to help people, like that's really what I'm trying to do. Like if you're finding this video and you're trying to build an e-bike and you don't know if you should do a hub motor versus mid-drive, just don't listen to this. I'm sorry. It's just not accurate. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I personally have ridden a hub motor for 35,000 miles, and I have never ever had an issue like this at all. Not even adjusted spokes, period.
Dude, whenever I see a customer bring in a hub motor bike, if I check the spokes on that motor in the wheel where the motor is, so many times there's loose spokes in there. They're just waiting to fail. I would much rather replace a chain than get a wheel rebuilt.
Yeah, me too, but
Easy, it's so much easier. So reliability, I say goes to mid-drives all day, every day,
twice on Sunday. Nope. Because you can't find a clutch anywhere. If you were out in the middle of nowhere and you were trying to find a clutch for your mid-drive, if it went out, you would have to order it and you would be dead in the water. But the only parts you would have to replace on a hub motor is bearings, and every single town has an industrial machine shop and bearing supply because they're industrial. Every machine needs bearings. Therefore, you can find bearings, and it cost me like, I don't know, I think the guy was going to charge me like $15 to replace the bearing on my old motor, and I gave him 20. So there you go.
Sunday. All right, now let's go to price and aesthetics. Price, generally it's gonna be the same price. We're talking about within $50 if you wanna get a 750 watt hub motor or the mid-drive. Mid-drive comes as a kit, comes with everything, motor, controller, everything. A lot of times the hub motors, you have to just the wheel is, quite a bit less expensive, but then you also have to buy the controller and everything else. So
no. If you were to go on eBay, you could get a kit for like $200. A mid-drive system is going to cost you upwards of like $650 maybe. And if you wanted to go like, quality, then yeah, you're going to spend, $250 to $400 for a hub motor. Controller is going to cost you a couple $100. The whole kit is I think a quality hub motor is going to cost you more than finding. Well, with the mid-drive, you need like a Lecky chain ring. You have to like fumble around with trying to like fit it onto your frame and stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like the same price, more or less.
So it ends up pretty much costing the same amount, within 50 bucks. But
Yeah.
aesthetically, mid-drives, the Bafang, the controller is built into the motor. So it's all a nice, sleek package. With a hub motor, you have this nasty brick of a controller that you have to somehow try to mount somewhere and make it look nice.
Like, it's so hard. Oh my God. I gotta like mount this like controller somewhere. Ugh. It's so ugly. It's like, whatever. Give me a break. Who cares?
If you care about that at all. It's a pain. And also, it's less surgery to your bike. You don't have to get rid of your whole rear wheel.
I don't get rid of my rear wheel either. I leave my rear wheel because I can always just convert it back to a regular bike. Like, that's the one thing. With the mid-drive, you can't do that. It's now a mid-drive e-bike. I can literally just take off my battery, throw on a regular wheel. My controller doesn't weigh anything. My computer doesn't weigh anything. And now it's a regular bike and I can just ride it just as normal. With the mid-drive, you can't do that. It's part of it's integrated. It's your bottom bracket. It's everything. So yeah, you can't get around it.
Getting rid of your whole wheel. You have to either throw it in the garbage, donate it, or hang it up in your garage for someday that you're totally going to reuse it on a different bike someday, but you probably never will. With the mid-drive, all you're doing is removing the front crank and you're losing your front derailleur. That's it. And then it just slides right in place. It's much more cohesive and it looks more slimline. As far
Yeah, you just have to like get rid of your derailleur and like your whole like drivetrain basically, and like convert it to an e-bike that you can't change back. And yeah, of course, like, let's just put a wheel up in our garage that we're never going to use, that I use all the time, because if I need to like have work done on my e-bike, then I just convert it back to a regular bike. I don't know.
As far as rideability, I'd say that this also goes to mid-drives. It's a much more natural feeling. You get to set which power level of a sit.
That's so dumb too. Like, so he's talking about like the fact that like mid-drives have like the torque sensing. You can buy a torque sensing bottom bracket. It's the same freaking deal. Like, it has nothing to do with mid-drive versus hub motor. I had a torque sensing bottom bracket for a super long time and I like it. It's fine, I don't think it's necessary. But yeah, I mean, that has nothing to do with like hub versus mid. That's just okay. Staying calm.
This that you're putting in, and all it's doing is just adding to whatever you're doing to a bike. So it's just like riding a normal bike. Hub motors have a way different feeling. It can be nice if you're not used to riding a bike, because it's nice just having this little like this little bit of power kind of float behind you like a little cloud and add to it. But if you've ridden a bike, or if you want to get back into biking, or you give it a little bit of a learning curve, you'll actually find that it's more enjoyable, because it's just like riding a bike. It's just adding a little
imagine
bit
that.
of power to you. So
riding a bike is just like riding a bike.
It reinforces the basic fundamentals of riding a bike, being in the right gear, and it's just going to make your bike last longer, and reinforces good fundamentals. Who doesn't like fundamentals? It's fun. Okay, now here is the grand finale. The only time that I would ever choose a hub motor over a mid-drive, and that would be if I was ever using a single speed application, like a motorcycle conversion where I didn't have a chain ring in the back or cassette or something like that, or if I was doing just a single speed bicycle conversion. But the one caveat is I would want to make sure that it was like a higher speed motor.
I would never ever do a single speed e-bike. That doesn't make any sense at all. Like, that's so stupid. I mean, maybe it's because I tour, so of course, I need to like pay attention to like watt hours per mile and things, but why would you make a single speed? Actually, there's a company, I can't remember what it is. It's like some like weird posh, it looks like a road bike, and it has like a battery in it, and it's so ridiculously overpriced for what it is. But yeah, it's a single speed too. But I mean, it's so dumb. Like, why would you do that?
If I was doing 3,000 watts or more in that hub, then the differences start to become less and less. That gap, performance gap, starts to get less and less. When you start getting to like 10,000 watts, the performance level starts going down. When you higher the voltage, higher the amps, like electric cars, they all use hub motors. They're using units of 400 plus volts going through it and enormous amounts of amps. That's why you get Teslas that are doing 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, because they're just putting gobs of power to it, and they have, you know, 3, 4 motors, one per each tire. It's just throwing so much power.
I don't get why that's a bad thing. Of course, every single electric vehicle ever has a hub motor. Do you understand that? Besides an e-bike, right? Like every single thing, every car, like the one wheels, the electric skateboards, every single EV on the road, period, besides mid-drive e-bikes have hub motors.
To it that it doesn't really matter at that point. But when you're using an e-bike and you're using low power, like under 1,000 watts, you can totally tell the difference. It's night and day. So if I was ever to do like a motorcycle conversion, I would probably use a hub motor, because at that point there's not much difference and it'd be a lot easier to convert.
Yep, and because they're better. So we're almost to the end of the video. The one thing I did want to say that I don't think he mentions, redesigning my new bike now that I have had my mostly perfect one stolen after 8 years. I've toured. You can look at my channel. I've been touring for the last, 4 years now. All on that bike. And I'm choosing to go hub motor again. And here's why. The main thing is hub motors are silent, right? There's no like bzzz, you know, like I think mid-drives, to me, my personal opinion, they're noisy and kind of annoying, right? So if you're using a sine wave controller, then your hub motor will be silent, which is great. The other thing that you'll never get with a mid-drive, and you also won't get with a geared hub motor, although they somehow, I mean, like Grin is selling a geared hub motor that actually has regen braking. But yeah, regen braking. So my motor, if I'm, you know, cruising down a big hill, I can, like, if I like lightly touch the brake levers, then it automatically adds like, you know, negative 400 watts to my stopping power. And if I hold the throttle down, or if I roll the throttle in, that even increases that. So it's like engine braking, you know, like if you heard like the big like Mack trucks engine braking, it's the same deal, you know. Mid-drives will never have that. Geared hub motors supposedly are now getting into that. It's like clutchless, I guess. But yeah, with a clutch, it's just not possible. So in terms of commuting and touring, it's not about getting energy back. It's about being able to not use your brakes as much. So, you know, when you're fully loaded and you're going down a hill, you're going like 30 plus miles an hour, you know, riding your brakes would be very, you know, it would wear them down pretty quickly. But all I have to do is just barely touch my brake levers, and you know, it more or less slows me down for whatever I need. So silence, regenerative braking. I also have auto cruise, so I can just hold my throttle for like 2 seconds, and then all of a sudden it just keeps going. So when I'm on tour, I can just just find the right speed and kind of, you know, put cruise on, and I don't have to like do anything for, you know, 50 miles. It's getting sunny. Yeah, and then my last point will be that you know, the reliability factor. And I'm not saying, you know, that mid-drives aren't reliable. I think that you would have to go a very long ways to have anything fail on one of those. But if you're talking about being out in the middle of nowhere and you're trying to fix your bike, you could fix a hub motor so much easier than you could fix a mid-drive, because all you would have to replace is bearings. And I even rode on my like crap bearings for like 5,000 miles. You know, they're not going to fail on you, right? They're just going to get loud and noisy and you know, grindy, and you're going to lose a little bit of like range. But they won't just bail on you. Nothing will bail on you on a hub motor. You can always just keep riding. And so I think in terms of reliability, in terms of commuting, if work is important to you and you're trying to use an e-bike for, your A to B commutes, there's no question that a hub motor is more reliable than a mid-drive.
That's why I only do mid-drives, and why I would only recommend mid-drives to anybody ever thinking about either buying an e-bike or converting an e-bike, is unless you're getting a screaming deal, like someone's selling one for like $200 or $300, if you plan.
Screaming deal? Sorry. Like, the people that are watching this, the people that found my channel, they understand. They know, like, that this is just absolute nonsense. The problem I have with this video is the fact that it's mid-drive or nothing, right? That's the problem I have, because I'm about hub motor and mid-drive. Everything can exist in the universe, right? And I think it's important to make sure that people that are looking into building or buying an e-bike have an actual realistic platform of information. And I would never tell someone that they shouldn't do one or the other. I bought my mom, or I helped my mom choose a mid-drive, right? And I'm a hub motor person, but there are friends of mine who are looking at building e-bikes, and I'm looking at their particular use case. And in my opinion, there are plenty of reasons to choose a mid-drive over a hub motor. But in my opinion, for commuting and touring, there is no question that a hub motor is better.
Plan on riding an e-bike at all, just get a mid-drive. It's way more fun, way more enjoyable, way less of a headache. It's just the way that that's the future. Hub drives were cool 30 years ago when that.
Yeah, that's the future, right? Mid-drives are the future. All right, so yeah, Justin from Grin Technologies, he's powering a sailboat with a hub motor, an e-bike hub motor, right? Every single EV on the planet, besides an electric bike with a mid-drive, is a hub motor. How are you like getting up and like tying your shoes in the morning? Good Lord, buddy.
That was the first, they were the first technology, and it's an old technology. Mid-drives are, yeah, as of this, they're like 10 years old roughly.
Yeah, and you can, oh my God, like Bionics, God, they're so complicated. Like you can't even service them. Like you have to take them to a shop to service a Bionics motor. Oh my God, they're not the future. I mean, I get why the manufacturers are going to mid-drive, because it's just cheaper, to be honest. They're not serviceable. They are going to last a certain way, but oh my God, like I don't know. I truly take offense to all of his arguments. Oh my God. I'm that, like, Goonies sloth or whatever his name is. So, the main point I want to make, and the whole reason why I'm making this video, is, like I said, I think it's very, very important to have correct information. Now, if you're finding my video and you're trying to decide between hub motor or mid-drive, I say, what are you trying to do? Weigh your options. I'm not going to tell you that one is better than the other. I'm saying my personal choice is a hub motor. This guy's personal choice is a mid-drive. The difference between him and I is that I have 8 years of experience with a hub motor, and I show it. I've been on 8 tours. I've gone 35,000 miles on a hub motor. he has what, 4 years experience working for a shop and dealing with mainly you know, proprietary e-bikes, you know, from manufacturers like Specialized and Trek and stuff. I can't control that, you know. If you're gonna go with a hub motor, you know, it is worth getting you know, spending the extra $300 to $500 to get a really quality kit, right? And, you know, find a wheel builder in your town that can like build you a wheel. You know, just buy the motor, have it laced into a wheel. Get to know your wheel guy, you know. That's the whole spoke thing. I've never seen it. Doesn't matter. And that actually has nothing to do with the hub motor, you know, efficiency or reliability. That actually completely comes down to who built the wheel, what kind of spoke, what kind of spoke they used, and you know, the rim and all that, you know.
The new technology, and they finally got to the point now where they've worked out all the bugs, or most of the bugs. It's way better.
What are you talking about, man? BBS HD and BBS02 have been around for like 6 years. Nothing has changed. Nothing. Like, it's they're not even like, you still have to like do a bunch of work to like even fit them to a bike in the first place. They're there's nothing that like, there's no new tech in terms of mid drives. You know, you have like the Bionics and yeah, they're making it more complicated, you know, Bionics, Bosch, Yamaha. Yes, they're making it more complicated. Is it more efficient? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, a hub motor is about 80% efficient. I think it's pretty good, you know. If you like, in comparison, a combustion engine is like 40% efficient. Do you understand? Like, a car is actually like one of the most inefficient like machines out there. It's like 40% efficient. And we're talking about a hub motor who, you know, or that's been designed, you know, 10 years ago or so, in the China market to try to, you know, combat the air quality and things. And that design is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it at all, you know, and it's 80 plus percent efficient. So it's a win-win, really.
Way better. So I beg you, mid-drives are the future. They make e-bike riding so much more fun, you won't regret it. And stay tuned, I'm gonna be putting out another video about my thoughts on dual hub motors versus a mid-drive.
All right, well, I'm gonna end this video now, but don't go dual hub motor. There's no reason. It's just complicating things, to be honest. Just go like, you know, rear wheel, if you're going to be commuting. If you want like a really easy conversion, then go front wheel, because it's just way easier to do that. But you know, you can get a cheap eBay kit for like $200. If you saw my live stream yesterday, you see that Dan has been riding his Voila Mart kit for a long time now. Working totally fine. In my opinion, most hub motors are basically identical. So, you know, depending on the wattage, you know, smaller ones are like rated for like, you know, 500, 750 watts. And then you have like the bigger ones, which are like, you know, 1,000 plus. I know tons of people that are running, you know, 3,000 watts on their hub motor designed for 1,000 watts. You know, motors don't really care. They really don't, you know. It really comes down to like the wiring, like the gauge of the wires. You could take 1,000 watt motor and you could upgrade the wiring and you could push 90 amps to that without a problem at all. There's no issue. It really comes down to like heat dissipation. It takes so long for a motor to overheat, you know, and I've only pushed mine to like, you know, 90 degrees Celsius a couple times, and that was up, you know, huge ass hills, and I was like trying to go faster than I should, and in 100-degree weather, right? That's you're going to get that anywhere, just downshift, just use your drivetrain like you would normally do with a mid-drive as well. But yeah, that's my take. Subscribe to Johnny Nerd Out if you are looking at a mid-drive, because I think he's probably a pretty good source of information for all that. But if you're a hub motor person like myself, check out ebikes.ca, which is Grin Technologies out of Canada. And you can also look them up, Grin Technologies, on YouTube. There's a ton of information about hub motors, and Justin has designed most of the e-bike components that I use. And another note is that there's a kind of like a solar e-bike race called Sun Trip. You can look that up as well. It's a all solar e-bike race. It used to, in previous years, it's been from Lyon, France to someplace in China. But they're doing a test run here this year, so it's going to be in the US, and they're coming through Portland. So I'm going to I'm working with my friend Dan, who you saw in the live stream yesterday, and we're going to plan some sort of like meetup, and there's a potential that I might try to tour down to Colorado with those folks. Not solar. I have to like build an e-bike. I don't have money for solar yet. But yeah, it would be really cool to like at least join those people. I think that's like, yeah, very, very important for the world, showing that you can like just travel like completely by the sun. And the only way to do that is by bike. It's just true, I was planning on building a solar trailer a while back, and I just decided that for my own personal purpose, touring, it's easier for me just to charge where I'm going. It would cost me like, I don't know, $3,000 to make a solar trailer. That is going to come. That is going to happen in the future. But yeah, gotta build my new bike and buy a second battery and stuff. So anyway, I hope this was entertaining and informational. You should check out Johnny Nerd Out's channel if you're like looking at mid-drives. I think he does know what he's talking about when it comes to mid-drives, but he doesn't know anything about hub motors. So there you go. Stick to my channel if you want hub motor information. Damien out.